Hello everybody, this is Cercis canadensis of the Fabaceae, which is the pea bean or legume family. Canadensis meaning of or from Canada. This is redbud, eastern redbud or Judas tree. To identify it, the leaves are alternate along the twig, so there's one leaf per node. Simple, so they're not dissected in any way. And they are heart-shaped, you'll notice. They're very distinct heart-shape. And that's because of their cordate base. Cordate from the root word cord, meaning heart. And they have an acute or sometimes acuminate tip, which just means pinched off kind of, and forming an acute angle at the tip. And that together forms that distinct heart-shaped leaf. Going to where it attaches to the twig, you'll notice it's swollen. And remember, that's a swollen pulvini, which is also common of some other species we're going to learn within Fabaceae. And if you go to the underside of the leaf, you'll see that where the leaf attaches to the petiole, the leaf blade, that is also swollen. So that's a pretty good characteristic to look for if you forget about the heart-shaped leaf. That should bring you back to Fabaceae. The bark itself is brown when it's young. It's also smooth. As it gets older, it starts to crack and fissure, and it kind of becomes scaly in its shape, and it becomes a little darker and a little more gray. The fruit is a legume. I have not seen any on this specimen, but they're about 4 inches long, so about the same size and shape as Robinia pseudoacacia. But if you'll remember, Robinia pseudoacacia black locust had a rounded bottom. This one's going to have a pointed bottom, so it's going to be pointed on both ends. And that's a pretty good enough characteristic to where I could just hand you that one fruit and you should be expected to know it. So remember, Cercis canadensis is pointed on both ends. It's also smaller than Albizia julibrissin, which you learned this week, mimosa. So that should be just, you really shouldn't miss this one if you can remember about the pointed ends. Let's see. The fruit matures in the fall after having flowered in early spring. Naturally, the flowers are a light pink color. And not only are they found along the branch, but they're also found along the main stem, which is known as cauliflory. And there are many cultivars of this plant, so the flowers have been, I believe they've been able to make white flowers. And cauliflory, again, flowering along the stem, that has been bred for selectively to varying degrees. The flowers themselves are edible. You can use them to make a tea. The tree itself is not too large of a tree. It maybe gets about 30 feet in stature before it starts to kind of top off and slow down growth. You'll find this natively in the eastern United States as an understory tree in moist sites, so near lakes or creek beds or river beds, really where water is very present throughout the year. And it does very well in shade. I've noticed that even under a dense canopy, it can flower, which is kind of surprising given the fact that it wouldn't get a whole lot of sunlight in the place it would be. I've said this before, there are many cultivars. This is very heavily used in landscaping. You'll see this all around campus. And they have bred for not only different types of flowers, different colors of flowers, they've bred for different types of forms or growth habits or really anything under the sun you can think of. I know one has a burgundy colored leaf, which is pretty nice to look at. But again, very heavily cultivated. So this has been Cercis canadensis of the Fabaceae. This has been Eastern redbud, redbud, or Judas tree.